Well, welcome everyone. I know folks will probably continue to pop in here for the next few minutes. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for an FAQ and really open Q&A discussion around the Nova Institute for Health Media Fellowship for 2025. My name is Trent Noss. I'm the Director of Communications for Nova, and I'm joined by my colleague Aaron, who is going to help me with running tech. And if you wouldn't mind, just as you're coming in, maybe introduce yourself briefly in the chat, say where you're joining us from. Would love to see the representation from around the country, and yeah, it's great to chat. I have a brief presentation that I am going to try to keep very brief. Just a quick overview of the program, where we've been, some of our materials for this year and focus areas, and then really want to reserve most of the hour for your questions and have an open discussion. If something occurs to you during the presentation that you want to make sure that we capture, feel free to drop it in the chat and we will make sure to circle back to it. Awesome. Thank you. So we're the Institute for Health. We're based in Baltimore, Maryland. We like to think of ourselves as a heart-centered think tank, taking action for the good of people, places, and the planet. We are really looking at the whole vision of health, the entire lived experience. So that's beyond standard medical care. We are really a organization that wants to catalyze new thinking. We want to explore different ideas around health, connect the dots between disciplines, and really think about these connections between people, places, and the planet. Ultimately, we want to be encouraging of health journalism that is looking at that same interdisciplinary approach and is really taking that vision to heart. We believe in the concept of flourishing, and when all people have the ability to flourish, that's what we are going for. Next slide. You can see some of our core values there of just who we are as an organization. I just wanted to highlight curiosity and collaboration there. Those are values that we take very seriously and really have as core to our identity. We are really committed to fostering thought leaders from academia, but also a lot of other pursuits. We have artists, journalists, practitioners, clinical practitioners in our network. So we really do take that all-encompassing approach and are trying to spark these creative new discussions. Next slide. Nova's been around a while. We were initially founded as the Institute for Integrative Health in 2007 by Professor Brian Berman. That new mindset and that new action, we've had a lot of great demonstration projects over the life of our organization. And now we have a lot of. Go ahead, Aaron. Thank you. So this graphic is available on our Nova website. It's probably a little small to read on screen, but you can just see a snapshot of a lot of the incredible milestones we've had over the years. Demonstration projects in the community, the development of the Green Road at Walter Reed Medical Center, certainly being a highlight, creating a nature space for veterans who were suffering from PTSD and trauma. All the way through to some of our more recent developments, including the development of the Nova Integration Hub, which is a forum where we, again, provide space for thought exchange and thought leadership. So we'll drop the link to this image in the chat in case folks would like to read it in greater detail. Yeah, so the spirit of Nova and the spirit that is imbued in this media fellowship is really captured pretty well here. That off each other and enhancing our collective understanding of health in a way that, again, just goes beyond standard medical care. You can see that just a small sampling of some of the areas that our scholars and fellows work on in particular, and some of our current and former media fellows work on as well. So there's a lot of opportunity for creativity that is within this fellowship, and we encourage proposals that really go beyond what we typically think of as health. Yeah, just a couple things. These are our core pillars of how we work. The Scholars and Fellows program is our core, And our media fellows are very much a part of that community. We work very hard to make sure that every cohort of media fellows is integrated in with our scholars in order to just find those connections and find opportunities for cross-pollination. Oftentimes media fellows come in and we can connect them with someone who is working in a field that is related to their project and or might be an unexpected connection that can help them advance a project. We have one of our current media fellows who interviewed one of our scholars about the impact of sunlight on the body. We've had another media fellow interview a scholar about childhood resilience and overcoming adversity in a mental health capacity. So those are some of the opportunities that being part of the NOVA community allows you to unlock. And we are also very keen on inviting our media fellows to our events throughout the year. Those might take the form of virtual webinars. We have in-person gatherings throughout the year, including one in Baltimore in the fall. And media fellows are very much encouraged to be part of our outreach because you're part of the community during your fellowship and beyond. And then just finally, just a couple more of our key areas that we really focus on. These are roles that we play and some of our unique value add as an organization. That convener role is really, really important. And just our support that we provide to researchers and our support that we can provide to journalists in the journalist space. That's really something that we pride ourselves on, and it's all about sparking innovation, and it's all about catalyzing new information and new opportunities. So, with that, I think I'll wrap up the introduction. Thanks for learning a little bit more about NOVA, and now I'm interested in some open discussion and just happy to take questions about the Media Fellowship. You've all reviewed the materials, you've looked at it, you maybe have questions about the organization, the opportunity, the timing, scheduling, whatever comes to mind. I'm happy to open it up. Free. I think one thing too, and I've just if folks want to use the hand raise feature, that's totally fine, or drop questions in the chat. One thing I could cover perhaps in a little more detail is just this year's focus areas. You may have seen those on the website. We put those focus areas on only because each year we have some topics that are just of particular interest, and they're not meant to be limiting. We're certainly open to proposals outside of those areas, but those are just things that we are keen on at the moment. So proposals that explore those questions. The second of the focus areas is mental health and emotional well-being. Certainly looking at all of the areas of mental health and what does it mean to examine this area using evidence-based approaches and look at the ways in which mental health is so intricately tied into so many elements of our lives. Everything from our individual well-being all the way up to planetary health. The third focus area for this year is health inequities in vulnerable populations. Certainly anything that is looking at inequity in society, political, environmental, social dynamics, and how can science really help point the way forward on some of these very sticky challenges. That could be very strong as well. And then just the fourth one is speaking to that general NOVA mission of transdisciplinary and intersectional approaches to health, connecting the dots between disciplines in new and intriguing ways. So that's just really to get the conversation going, and again, not meant to be limiting, but certainly areas that we'll be looking for strongly. Okay, a couple questions coming in from Rebecca. Newsrooms can apply for the fellowship. Can you say a bit about how that works? Absolutely. This is the first year that we have extended eligibility to local newsrooms, also nonprofit newsrooms and student-run newsrooms as well. And the way that we envision this potentially working is that we understand that newsrooms are strained at the moment for resources. They may have had to scale back their reporting in recent years for any number of reasons, but we still want to be very supportive of newsrooms that are pursuing investigative reporting, special projects, multimedia. So if there's a newsroom out there that would like to pursue, for example, an investigative series that they just haven't had the time or the resources to do, but they think that that would be a year-long project, great, we could potentially support it. Maybe a newsroom is looking to start up a podcast or a video series or some other novel distribution strategy for reaching different audiences or different portions of their audiences. That could be a great fit as well. Really just thinking about how Nova can support a quality journalism effort that would be very locally based and not limited to just one individual. Because I think we tend to think of freelancers for these type of fellowships, but we're very open to supporting a newsroom as well. Rebecca, happy to follow up if that if there's anything else that you'd like me to speak to. Um, Mariella, hi. Is it necessary to reside in Baltimore to participate in the fellowship? And two, can the information be produced in multiple languages? Really great questions. The answer is no for residing in Baltimore. You can reside wherever you are typically based. We do have a limit that you must be US based, but that is not to say that your work cannot be internationally focused, if that makes sense. So you have to be, yes, US based. International focus is okay. We ask that you make plans to come visit us in Baltimore in the fall during our Scholars and Fellows meeting, which will be in October this year. But there's no in-person residence requirement beyond that. To the second part of your question, information produced in multiple languages, I think that's great. It could be really exciting to have a bilingual component to a project. We certainly would love for it to be produced in English for just the purposes of reaching, being widely distributed. But if there's a bilingual component, I think that would be great. Rowan, and thanks, folks. I see a couple hands being raised too. I'm going to go through a couple in the chat, and then I'll pop over to the hands. Compensation for the 2005 fellowship is just over half what it was in previous years. Yes, absolutely. So this year we have put the support amount a bit lower in the hopes that we can support additional projects. We're also asking less of full-time commitment. So in the past, that full amount represented the idea that the NOVA project would be your full-time role during your year of fellowship. This year, we've reduced the amount of support, but it's also down to a half-time commitment. So that would hopefully, if you have other projects going on or you have other opportunities that you'd like to pursue, you'd be able to continue to do those, which is the reason for the lowered support. All right, let me pop to a couple hands. Mark, I see you on my screen.
Yes, I have a question kind of piggybacking off of Rebecca's question about newsrooms, and also a comment I see posted by our reporter, Aaron. We're wondering about branching into a special project related to this fellowship, and looking at the possibility of an existing reporter applying, but I'm wondering if it makes more sense in that case for the reporter to apply or for the newsroom to apply?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, if the individual reporter applies, that person will become the fellow, and the funding would go directly to that person. So it might be just a logistical question of how funding would need to flow in order to make that work. Certainly, if the newsroom wants to have its name associated with the Nova Fellowship in a more concerted way versus the individual reporter, I think that's probably a decision for you to decide. It wouldn't necessarily make a difference in the consideration of the proposal. Either way, we'll be happy to look at it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Let's see. Rachel, I see your hand.
Yeah, hi Trent and Aaron, and thanks for having this information session. I'm a little sheepish to ask my question because I have read your FAQs and I know that you're saying specifically you want journalists. I am a science writer, or I was. I'm losing my federal job, and I do have clips. I have some magazine clips. I have clips from trade journals, but essentially my job was translating science to lay audiences. I'm not exactly a journalist. So the fellowship appeals a lot, but if I'm not eligible, I will bow out.
Well, first, I'm very sorry to hear about your job. Certainly, this is a very difficult moment across the landscape. So I'm sorry to hear about that. I think that if you are in the science writing space in any capacity, you are certainly eligible, and we will consider the proposal. Really, I think what we're looking for is the distribution piece is very important to any proposal. So we certainly would be looking for your thoughts and planning about how the work would ultimately find a distribution channel for a wide audience. Certainly, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to consider a proposal.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, back to the chat. Diana, I'm wondering which outlets you're especially interested in us partnering with. Nonprofit news outlets, preferable to co-publish with other partner outlets. Yes, all of the above. I think that we are open to ideas for collaboration. Nova can unlock some channels and some doors via our own network. We have a terrific media advisory council with some great journalism leaders in it who can make connections and help us with a lot of introductions and such. If you are a nonprofit news outlet already and you're saying, oh, it would be great if we could get such and such on board, let's do it. Or at least let's ask the question of it, can it be done? That's very much in the Nova spirit of trying to bring others on board, and where it makes sense, we'll be happy to do it. That being said, I think that we will want to be fairly realistic about the distribution that'll be possible during the course of the fellowship term, and anything that would require a multi-year commitment potentially. We'll have to decide what ultimately ends up being in the scope. But certainly our media fellows in the past have had a lot of success pitching and placing at major news outlets, the New York Times, Bloomberg, Grist, The Guardian. We've had good success with those as well. And Nova provides as much support as we possibly can in that.
I appreciate that. We do work with, have pitched to USA Today, and we have, been co-published with USA Today and The Guardian and a lot of other places. So I was just wondering if you had any particular region or nationwide outlets you're thinking about. It just depends on what we would like to place.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Aaron, I think maybe we did we cover the question earlier with Mark about individual versus newsroom?
Yeah, I think you covered it. Thank you.
Perfect, great. Let's see. Star, can you talk about what Nova looks for in a proposal? How detailed do we need to be? Yeah, I think a couple things come to mind in the proposal. One, we really want to see some a thoughtful outline of how you're going to approach a big question, and any detail you can provide around the types of people that you might look for as sources, the types of reporting that you might want to go do via travel, or are you going to take a data-driven approach, for example? Are you going to be mostly writing feature stories? Are you going to be doing a mix of feature stories and graphics, for example. So some of it is just dialing in the format a little bit to really give us a picture of what you have in mind and what you think that you will be able to deliver on in the fellowship time. The second piece of it is really just that interconnectedness and thinking about that broad spectrum of health. What are some disciplines that you're interested in that might be unexplored at the moment? Or how are you going to dig into a question in a little bit of a new and a different way than maybe, is there a gap in current coverage, for example? Or is there a particular community that might be well served by your project? We had one media fellow from our first cohort who really focused in on Appalachia. And that was she really looked at health challenges surrounding Appalachia and has continued to publish widely beyond that. But that was really the scope of her proposal. Anything you can give us that just gives us an idea of where you'd be heading. Detailed, I think there's some rough guidelines in the application form about how long things should or shouldn't be. Feel free to give us a lot, and we'll certainly be more than happy to review it. Let's see. Yoti. I'm so sorry. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. Can you share what disseminating the work as widely as possible looks like? Do fellows arrange to have work syndicated, republished, or something else? Great question. Fellows have complete editorial independence over their work is something I want to make mention of. NOVA approves the general scope of the project, and really beyond that, what you choose to do with it is kind of up to you. We have most of our fellows are pursuing publications in the major outlets as discussed before. Syndication may come out of that, which is great if that ends up happening. But really the pitching and the placement is up to you on what makes sense. Now, we'd certainly encourage you to aim big and try for broad audiences, because one of the core pieces that we feel is very important around health journalism is trying to widen the audience for this type of reporting and trying to reach communities and people who may not typically encounter health journalism in their local outlet or TV news or whatever the case may be. So I would say that let's be ambitious in our plans for dissemination. And one thing that we mentioned in this year's proposal is just that we encourage novel distribution methods as well. So if you have an idea for how this reporting might extend to, I think I mentioned infographics, podcasts could certainly be part of that. Anything that really could maybe be something other than just words on a page could be very interesting. Jesse, hi. In the work samples portion of the application, would you like all 3 clips included in one PDF, or should each clip get its own PDF, full clips, or links to clip? I'm going to defer to Erin on this one. Erin, how's your formatting preference?
I think I was just about to type a reply. I think we can be flexible. I think a PDF is always great since links can change. But as far as one versus multiple, if they could be consolidated in a neat and clear way, that's great. But I'm sorry, am I cutting out? My internet is unstable, of course. But multiple PDFs is also fine.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks for the formatting question there. Let's see, a few more. Let's see. Yes, US based, please, for the fellowship would be great. And Marielle, it looks like you had a follow-up question. Puerto Rico, US territory, US citizenship. I think that, yeah, I think that counts to Erin's point. That's great. Let's see. Star, do all our clips have to be health-related stories? I'm slightly new to the health reporting space, but have done in-depth reporting before. Good question. The bulk of what Nova is supporting will need to be health-based. You will need to outline the project as preferably a series of articles, probably not one article, probably multiple articles, or a topic that at least demands a large amount of coverage. And that will need to be what your proposal is certainly based around. If you have other publishing opportunities throughout your fellowship term, by all means, please pursue them. If you have a recurring assignment with I don't know, Dogs Monthly or another publication, yes, absolutely, you can continue to do those. But Nova is supporting and expects the bulk of the attention to be paid to whatever your proposal is centered around related to health. Yeah. Sorry. I misunderstood. Clips you want to turn in as part of our application. Those do not, I think, have to be specifically health related if you have a wide variety of other sources. So you can just send us a variety of your best ones. I will say it would be great to show us that you've written a bit in the health space as much as possible, would be what I'd indicate. Right. This is fun. What else can I answer? What else is on your mind? Anything that would be helpful as you think about your proposals? Rowan, yes.
Hey, and you did address this a little bit, so forgive me if it's overly obvious, but I guess I'm just trying to understand how well defined you expect the story treatment to be, because you could imagine the output looking quite different after a few months of reporting based on where that leads. And I don't know if there are examples of past fellows where that sort of shifted midstream.
Yeah, great question. I think that one of the great things about this fellowship is that we believe in pursuing where your research takes you. And that's inevitably going to lead to some avenues that perhaps weren't part of the original scope, but are just too good to not follow up on. And as we all know, reporting begets new questions, which lead to new questions and new opportunities. So that part of it and allowing for some flexibility is completely fine as far as Nova is concerned. I think from the perspective of just the submission, we would love to feel like it's been fairly well thought through and is as all-encompassing as possible, just based on what you know at this current moment. You certainly don't have to have names of sources, for example, or anything like that, but maybe just say, this is where I would start, or this is what I intend to pursue, and just give us that sense as best as possible.
Thank you.
You bet. Rebecca.
For example, for my newsroom, this is the amount of funding we might ask for something like, a 12-story series, and that would include some of our operating costs and things like that. Is that sort of in line with what you're thinking, or is there a different scope you had in mind?
No, I think that's about in line. I think that we would, from a newsroom perspective, we would be understanding that you all, the reporters at the newsroom, would be continuing to work on other projects, and that this would be something that would be something that they would not be able to pursue otherwise were it not for this support. So essentially, if it's 12 stories, that's great. If it's 5 stories and a video, great. Whatever you feel is reasonable for the year-long time commitment, as well as how that fits into your day-to-day operations. Just put that in the proposal as best you can do.
Great, thanks so much.
Thanks. Let's see. Kalele. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My apologies. taking you back, can you quickly do a rundown on the eligibility criteria for the fellowship? Absolutely. I can do a couple of the highlights. It's also on the we have a longer piece on the NOVA on the page, which I can drop in the chat here for just a moment. At the bottom of that page, you'll see a little drop-down menu that says eligibility. The long and the short, you are a working journalist or science writer with some experience in health, and you have a great idea for exploring a topic related to the many complex factors that influence our health. You must be US based, even if your work will discuss international issues, that's completely fine, but you yourself must be US based. It's a 12-month cohort, and let's see, other things. That's kind of it for the hard and fast eligibility. We do ask that you come prepared for engaging with NOVA throughout the course of your fellowship. So that's our in-person event in Baltimore, which hopefully you'd be able to attend. Our virtual forums that we hold, just being involved with us and our outreach efforts is something that we really, really encourage. But for the most part, you are able to be geographically located elsewhere and be working on your proposal with regular check-ins with NOVA staff to just say, hey, how's it going? Can we help at all? Do you need anything? That's what I got. Aaron, ideal size and scope for the deliverable. How big should the story series be? How do you think about the project deliverable, and how do you consider the impact of the work to be produced? These are really great questions. There's probably not a one-size-fits-all answer, unfortunately. I think that the scope needs to be big enough to feel like it is worthy of a year's worth of part-time commitment. So, one article or two articles is probably not quite enough in and of itself. Ultimately, it's less of a quantity and a quota for what the deliverable is, and it's more of just the quality. If it's a couple articles, but they're incredibly detailed and well-researched and have all these data components and whatnot, that could be fine. We also understand that placements in outlets are not guaranteed, so there's not you must publish in 5 outlets, for example. We just want to feel like the deliverable is in line with the amount of time and the financial support that will be committed. So I wish I could be more specific, but it should just feel proportional to that. In terms of deliverables, the deliverables would tend to be things like articles that are actively being pitched for publication. It could be something that is a media product, like a video or a podcast that, again, would be actively pitched for distribution somewhere. What wouldn't fall into deliverables would be things like research notes or trying to think of other things that might fall outside. I mean, the end goal of the fellowship is publication in trade outlets. I'll put it that way. This isn't intended to be simply a research-based fellowship. And the impact goes along with that, because ultimately where we see a lot of impact is in feeling like we have reached a readership and we have illuminated an issue around health. We have connected the dots in a way that they've never been connected before. And it's great when we can really point to a outlet or a placement and we hear, oh my gosh, I read that article and it was so interesting. I never thought of health that way. It's also great just when we can hear that our fellows are able to have the time and the space to do great work. we've heard from previous fellows that having the financial support has allowed them the opportunity to really dig into questions and really dig into topics in a way that they hadn't been able to before. So it's not just external impact, it's impact on you all as well, and feeling like this experience and this year will help deepen your own knowledge and your own understanding around health, because ultimately, even after the fellowship is complete, we absolutely want to continue to see your great work being published, because we want to support health journalism generally, and we want this field to continue to really thrive. I hope that answered everything, Aaron. Ping me again if not. Let's see. Star, if accepted, what type of resources can we expect from Nova? Yeah, we're here to help you. We can, as I mentioned before, we can make connections with our Media Advisory Council. The previous group of media fellows will all be available to you for introductions and just idea brainstorming. Hey, how did you approach this? Or we really want this to feel like an ever expanding group of colleagues and collaborators, so that hopefully we can be helpful to one another. And Nova can also help unlock academic expertise through our scholars and fellows, because we have this incredible group that are just covering so many disciplines that if you say, hey, I'm stuck, I need an expert on such and such, we'll put out the call and we'll try to connect you to a person who can help. And in terms of placements at outlets, I know that Nova has, we know a lot of editors. I won't say that we can guarantee placement with any particular outlet, but if we can help, we absolutely will. We're also able to provide a travel stipend, which is covered in the proposal, the application guidelines. So that's $7,500, and that's a stipend for you to be able to travel and report and enrich your project in some way. So we make that available as well. Is there editorial support or project mentorship of some kind? Another journalist. Yeah, I think, yeah, just to what I was just saying, I mean, we will certainly do our best to connect you with the previous media fellow cohorts, and hopefully they're all lovely, incredible people, and would be more than happy to be mentors for you in any way. And you also will probably find quickly that you may know other, you may have other common connections within the broader journalism space. So we really do hope that mentorship, formally or informally, becomes a part of this experience. We're also looking at setting up, in terms of what Nova can do, we're also looking at if we can set up some trainings and some professional development, perhaps, that would be available throughout the cohort term. TBD on, we're still scoping that out right now, but we'll certainly try to help as best we can. If there's topics that are of interest to our fellows, say, hey, I'd love to learn more about this, we'll do our best to set up a forum around that. Leslie, can we talk to anyone about our idea and refine it prior to turning in our application? I think from an equity perspective, I would probably say not. I think it would be, certainly feel free to, brainstorm with, whoever in your network, other journalists, friends, family, whomever. I mean, definitely work with people around you to refine the proposal. I think from a Nova perspective, we would not do any kind of a pre-review of applications, if I'm understanding your question correctly. Kendra, are managing editors, health writers from medical associations, nonprofits eligible to apply? Yes, definitely. If you're in the medical writing field, health writing field, absolutely. You may want to pre-clear it with your organization. Different organizations have different rules and regulations around outside commitments, for example. So maybe just do some internal checking on your side. But from our side, that's not a problem. Cool. Thanks, Mariella. Thanks for joining. We've got about 15 minutes left, and I'm happy to take additional questions or just open up for general discussion if folks have other things you'd like to talk about. I'll just add that the deadline is May 19th, and this will be the only Q&A between now and then. We are not planning to have another Zoom call. So if there's something that doesn't get answered during this call that you would like to email Aaron or myself about, is certainly open to, if it's a logistical question or whatnot, please feel free to message us. Cece.
Thank you so much. This is so helpful. Question is, I understand we need to be US based, but can our project focus on health issues that have a global impact and how it has an impact on people in other countries, in addition to the language piece?
Yeah, absolutely. I think yes is the answer. Global planetary health is really an important part of NOVA's mission. Anything that has a global focus is terrific. So encourage you to think internationally in that regard.
Thank you.
Sure. Shernay.
Hello, thank you for holding this session. Very helpful, very excited about it. Quick question though. So I had to step away for a portion of the conversation. So will this be recorded and shared with us?
This call, Aaron, are we recording?
Yep, you're being recorded. And
Okay.
we'll share the recording
There we go. Great.
very soon with all of you. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Kendra.
Hi, I'm sorry if you already addressed this question, but did you already talk about the time commitment? I know that you mentioned part-time, but can you just elaborate on that?
Sure. So the part-time commitment is really intended for you to be able to continue with potentially other freelance opportunities or other writing that you may be doing. That's a change from previous years where we really did encourage people to make the NOVA project their full-time job throughout the course of the year. So that's roughly 30, that's roughly 20 hours a week or so. That's not a hard and fast number, but that's just generally should be in line with about the amount of time that you're devoting to the project.
Thank you.
You bet. Let's see, a couple more here. Aaron, seems like you're not necessarily looking for a publication partner at proposal. Want to know that we can reach our audience with the work. Talk about that attention. Yeah, that's definitely it's a good question, and we also understand that placing articles is hard, especially with big time national publications, and that it can often take months and months to develop something and build that relationship with the editor. So I think that if that's a concern, it doesn't need to be. We'll help as best we can. And I think that given the track record of the fellowship and the program, I think it's a pretty low concern on NOVA's part. We definitely want to see just from your previous clips that you have been able to write for broad audiences before, and that you have, that you've written a bit for outlets that are reaching public audiences, I think is really the spirit of that. But yeah, we try not to be too prescriptive about a quota for publication. Let's see, a couple more. Let's see. Sorry, I feel like I missed one. From Tara, anything more you can tell us about the goal of the fellowship? Yeah, I think that in my mind, we're at a critical moment for health journalism generally, but particularly health journalism. We're at a time when a lot of outlets are strained. We're at a time when legacy media has been shrinking. And we're also at a time when health and the the view of health that Nova promotes, which is a very interconnected one, has really never been more important. We have a lot of societal questions and debates and challenges that are really critical for the population to understand and have a good grounding of. And Nova feels very strongly that journalists are key for advancing science-based, evidence-based coverage of these topics. So I think that every year it's amazing to see the creativity that comes forward in the proposals, and our cohort, we want them to be pursuing big ideas, big questions, and ultimately come forward with just an incredible sense of, let's dive in, let's figure this out, and let's explore this in a way that it's never been explored before. So if you look back at our previous cohorts, the range of topics is just incredible. And every year we have an opportunity to add to that. So I think that we just go into it with a very open mind and want to be blown away by the amazing ideas that you have, and say, yes, let's do it. And then and let's partner to really succeed and support the amazing journalists that are covering these topics. So that's how I view it, at least. Lauren, go ahead.
Hi, Trent. I work for Brains On, which is a science podcast for kids. And so our primary audience is kids like 6 to 12 years old. But we know we have a lot of like co-listening between kids and their adults. And we also have like a large audience of teachers. But when you said the thing about, you're looking for sort of a general audience, do you feel like it's worth a group like us, a newsroom like us, applying that mainly reaches kids, or are you looking for a more broad reach? Like, we have a very big reach, but it's of that kind of specific kids and family audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. And Brains On sounds like a really incredible endeavor. And I think that Nova is really interested in youth health and childhood health. So I think there's opportunity there for overlap. I think what we would want to see in a proposal is, how is this going to how is your project or whatever we decide to do, is it an expansion or an extension of some way of your typical programming? And is it something that maybe could be considered a new endeavor for you that is going to potentially be, I don't know, that'll make parents say, oh, that's really interesting, I didn't expect that. Or, oh, this has really helped me understand XYZ in a much different way, and they're going to share it with their networks. I think we'd be looking for something that is going to really feel like you're breaking new ground. Is I guess what I would say.
Awesome, thank you. That's really helpful.
Of course. David, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Trent. This has been great. Just a quick question. So I am a podcaster and done podcasts. I've done a combination of podcasts, and then I've turned the podcast into articles and gained some distribution partners in the past. But one of the things that I'm particularly interested in this fellowship for is YouTube, so that I can actually go across podcast, audio, written, and then also video. And I'm curious if that has happened, if you have examples where fellows have kind of taken that into taking that approach. And then I'm also curious again, and I think you kind of answered this, is that it would be groundbreaking in a lot of respects as far as building something new. So I'm not going to have that massive audience in that way. So I'm thinking that I can kind of position it where I can add some traditional media, as well as forward-looking media approach. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on if that's been done before, and then kind of your advice with that background on my best approach.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking. That very cross-channel approach is certainly appealing, in the sense that I think we see from the current state of media that we need to be branching out and we need to be reaching people where they are. So whether that's audio, video, what have you, I think it's good for us to think about these diverse streams of places that we can reach people. I guess my caution would be we don't want to overextend either. We don't want to feel like, oh, we have to do so many pieces that ultimately we can't really focus on any of them. So I would say that we don't want to overextend, but anything that includes different distribution is amazing.
Thank you.
Bet. It's a couple more minutes. If anyone's got any last closing notes, I think I got through the entire chat, but please chime in if I accidentally missed anything. Thanks, Kendra. Great. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll just say a closing that please, between now and May 19th, please reach out to Aaron or I. We can put our emails in the chat if there are any questions that come up that you think of after the fact that would be helpful as you prepare the proposal. We are more than happy to assist, and we're really looking forward to seeing all the incredible work that you all are preparing, and hope that we can connect with you in some way going forward. Thanks. Really, just a huge thank you for your interest in Nova and for all that you do as journalists and as writers. So, thanks so much, everyone.